We are recording.
Awesome. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Paris. Welcome to our very first of 13 Sunday calls with different jewels. I'm super, super excited to have Stephanie Murray doing our very first call. A little bit of a backstory, which I don't even know if Stephanie knows this, but my very, very first Plexus event was an opportunity of a lifetime event at a Lexus dealership, and you probably know which one I'm talking about. Yes. It was one with Celeste and Helen McFadden, I think Jen Hawkins. Yeah. But anyways, you guys, I was like brand spanking new, like still wholesale ambassador status. And you guys, Stephanie shared her story, and when I tell you that literally the entire room was bawling their eyes out, like so emotional. And it was Stephanie's story that had me have that light bulb moment where I was like, oh my gosh, Plexus is the real deal and absolutely everyone needs to know about it. So it is so special for me to have her on this call because literally her story was the reason why I ever even opened my mouth about Plexus.
Oh gosh, that's so cool. I did not know that.
Yeah. So I totally did. I told him at home and I was like, Brett, oh my gosh, I have to tell you the story. Like, it's amazing because my husband's a Marine too. And I was just like, you have to know about it. And you have to tell everyone in your shop about it. And he was just like, oh my God, honey, you're crazy. But totally, that was the moment for me.
That's so awesome.
So I'm super excited that you're on here with us.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you asked me to be on tonight. Wow, I did not know that. That's so cool. I was going to share a little bit of my story. Now I feel like obligated to share a little bit about Nate's story since that. Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry if I'm a little scratchy. I've been traveling lately and not been super consistent, and it's killing me. So I'm Stephanie Murray. For those of you that don't know, I'm a Sapphire ambassador, and like Paris mentioned, my husband is a Marine, and so when I started Plexus almost 3 years ago, it'll be 3 years in January, I started just for weight loss and had no other intention. I did not want to work the business, just wanted to lose a little bit of weight. My husband saw me losing weight after a few weeks on the products, and he wanted to give it a try, so we ordered some for him, again, for him just to lose weight. Had no idea, the implications of like getting his gut in line and what that would do for his health. So the short and sweet version of it is he was able to get off of over 14 medications. He's a combat veteran, was in the Marine Corps, went to Afghanistan and came home really, really broken, physically, mentally, suffered from PTSD, anxiety, depression, insomnia, migraines, and then physical pain, all kinds of horrible stuff. And with getting him on Triplex and X Factor and the Ease products, he's been able to get off of 14 medications, including narcotics that he was on daily that he was addicted to. And it's completely changed our life around. At that meeting that Paris mentioned, I don't always share this part of his story, but right before we found Plexus, I walked in on him with a gun to his head. So it was really, really bad. And Plexus was an answer to prayers that I hadn't even prayed, a solution that I didn't even know I was looking for because we just thought it was weight loss. And it turned out to be so much more. And like she said, it's because of that I'm so passionate about sharing Plexus with everybody, because you don't know who's suffering silently. And I don't offer that information to my friends. Most of my friends don't even know that we were suffering in that way, even our Marine Corps friends. And there's so many other people out there that are struggling and that need what we have. So that's why I'm passionate, and that's why I share. But tonight I wanted to talk to you guys about leadership, because this is a senior Ruby and above call, right, Paris? Okay, so you guys are kind of upper level. You guys are rocking and rolling, working your way to get to Maui next year. I'm sure we'll see lots of your faces there. So I have prepared 3 short-ish points for you. I'm going to try to keep it short, and then I want to open it up to questions. So if you guys have anything specific, issues that you want to, second opinion on kind of thing, I'd be happy to answer questions at the end. So jot things down as you hear me, as you're thinking of them. Normally I just like to have fun and be really bubbly. But I wanted to get really serious with you guys and just lay out, have a moment of truth with you, or a few moments of truth with you. And sometimes the truth hurts. But know that I'm not going to leave you there. I'm not going to leave you where it hurts. And the only reason I'm going to be real with you is because I know it can help you grow. So I want all of you right now, if you've got any little bit of ego, which I know I struggle with, thinking, I'm a red, if you guys know the color personalities. And so reds are like, yeah, I'm going to do it my way. It's my way is the best way. If she's doing it that way, I'm going to do it better. So if you're a red, or if you have any other, ego hanging around, just throw it in the trash right now. Shut the lid on it. We're gonna be here tonight with no ego and really take an honest look at what you're doing with your team, who you are, what you're doing in your personal business. And the more honest you are with yourself, the better you can grow. And yeah. So let me jump into it. The only meaningful measure of a leader is whether the team succeeds or fails. The only meaningful measure is whether the team succeeds or fails. So there are no bad teams, only bad leaders. So let that sink in. That can hurt, because I know personally sometimes in slow months, or when we've had back office issues or whatever it is, it can be really tempting to look and say, my team just isn't fill in the blank. My team, my level ones just aren't sponsoring people, or, they're just not showing up to trainings, or whatever it is. So it can be really easy to turn it back on them. But if you hold on to this and really let this sink in, there are no bad teams, only bad leaders. And I'm not saying you're a bad leader, and maybe this doesn't apply to you today, but it might apply down the road when you're tempted to start placing blame. So I'm going to give you 3 truths that you really, really need to take hold of and apply on every level of your business. So 3 truths to take hold of. 1 is that it starts with you. And I'm going to go into detail on all of these, but I want to give you all 3 up front. 1 is that it starts with you. 2 is to empower others. And 3 is to let them lead. So going back to number 1, it starts with you. So you have to lead yourself before you can ever attempt to lead anyone else. So what the heck does that mean? That means taking 100% ownership of absolutely everything in your life. Not just in your business, but in your life. And I'm saying take this to an extreme. There is no one else to blame for anything at all. Guys, I can tell you, it took me 10 months to get to Emerald, which is really, really fast. And then it took me another 14 months to go from Emerald to Sapphire. In that time frame, we had back office apocalypse. And it was so tempting to say, oh my gosh, I am so slow because the back office is horrific, and this and that and this and whatever else is happening. But that we cannot do that. You have to take 100% ownership. The buck stops at you. My team isn't growing because of something that I am not doing or something I am doing. So you can never, ever be the victim. Don't ever let yourself be the victim, because if you give up ownership of whatever it is, you give up the ability to change it. So, you can make a difference or you can make excuses, but you can't do both. I'll say that again. You can make a difference or you can make excuses, but you can't do both. You have to take 100% ownership of everything in your life. I tell my kids this all the time. If you guys have kids, I see lots of little kids hanging around. A lot of times they start arguing with each other, or something happens, and my older son will, want to say, well, it's not my fault. So-and-so did this, so-and-so did that. And I stop him and tell him, it is your fault. It has to be your fault. You don't want it to not be your fault, because if it's not your fault, then you cannot do anything to change it. So apply that to your business. If something isn't happening right now the way that you want it to, then ask yourself, what am I doing or what am I not doing to make that the reality right now? So that's a little mindset shift for you when anything in your life, something bad or frustrating happens. And guys, I'm talking extremes, like someone rear ends you. You're driving along and someone rear ends you. You were just at a stoplight minding your own business. instead of flipping out and being like, oh, it's all their fault. Why, bad things always happen to me. You're not the victim. What did I or didn't I do to cause that? Maybe I could have left earlier. That's an extreme, but you need to take it to that level. Take 100% ownership of everything in your life and in your business. It will change your business, I promise you, because when you have control, you do have control over every aspect of your business. You are the master of your ship. You control your future. The little B, I have it broken down to B. So we're still under, it starts with you. So A was take 100% ownership of yourself. B is personal development, one of my favorite topics. So I love the saying that success leaves clues. If you're not a reader, if you are not reading multiple books a month, start, because your business will accelerate. The more that you're reading, the more that you're growing and becoming better at what you do, the faster your team will grow. Commit to reading 10 to 15 pages a day. That is not much. And that doesn't have to be physically reading a book. I know when I was still working full-time and doing Plexus, I spent my commute time in the car listening to books. So I got a good hour and a half every day listening to stuff on Audible. I love Audible. I can, put on a book and cook dinner. I can clean the house. I really like doing that. So I've learned to incentivize myself. I hate doing the dishes, but if I'm going to do the dishes, I'll put in a book that I want to listen to, put my earbuds in and do the dishes. So it's more fun. But Audible's great. Keeping a list on YouTube of the videos that you want to watch. You can just listen to those. You don't actually have to sit down and watch. Podcasts are awesome. I've just started getting into podcasts, and there are so many that I want to listen to. Hold on one second. I got to turn off my heater. I'm dying. So, sorry. It's Montana, and I'm from California, so I'm still getting adjusted to everything. So I have a space heater in here. I'm like, it's 76 degrees. I'm melting. So anyway, commit to 10 to 15 pages a day, or 15 to 30 minutes if you're just listening to something. Listen while you're doing your makeup in the morning, while you're taking a shower. Get one of the little Bluetooth speakers, or just you can put your phone in a little cup, and it makes it louder. Just listen while you're getting ready. Things that you're time that you're doing kind of idle things that you can listen to. Make your car a rolling university. My kids know that when we get in the car, they're going to be listening to a book, and they moan and complain, but I'm like, it's time to grow your brain. You guys are learning stuff along with me. Now, when you're reading all of these books, it's all good and great to read all these books, but if you're not actually applying them, or if you let that little ego sneak back in and you're reading it and you're like, so-and-so needs to read this. My level 2 needs to read that. It's really easy to apply it to other people, but we have to check our ego at the door and look for ways to apply whatever you're reading to yourself and your business. I would encourage you to take at least one action from every book that you read. So here's a little mindset shift for you. It's not a $30 book. It could be a $1 million idea. You're just looking for one thing in that book. That's why I spend hundreds of dollars probably a month on books. And I don't hesitate to go to a workshop that's $500 or, whatever. And that you might be like, well, yeah, Stephanie, you're a Sapphire and making all kinds of money. That's still a sacrifice for me to spend a lot of money on a workshop, but I want to learn. And that's the difference between really an amateur and a professional network marketer, is the fact that you're always learning. And you're not, letting that ego creep in and thinking, well, I've got it made. Guys, I've sponsored close to 100 level 1s. And I'm just now really diving into learning about sales. I for a long time, I just was like, sales is a gross word. I don't want to know how to sell. I'm just sharing. That's all I'm doing. But I'm like, wait a minute, I need to get really good at selling. That's really what I'm doing. So that is letter B. C, under it starts with you, is work your business. If you want your team to be doing something, AKA sponsoring people, then you need to be sponsoring people. The speed of the leader is the speed of the team. So whatever you're doing, you're setting the pace. So if you want your people to be sponsoring 3 people a month, you have to be working your butt, busting your tail to sponsor 3 or more. You should really be doing more above and beyond anything you would ever expect your team to do. Work your leads before your leaders. Carrie Wilkerson in Hawaii this year, she mentioned this, and it was a big shift for me, because you guys know as senior Rubies that it starts to become your team starts to become more of a demand on your time than your own leads are probably around this point, and it can be really easy to just become really reactive, where you get on, you're sitting down to work for the day and you go to check your messages and you've got like 15 things from people on your team, and you start to go through all of that. And then by the time you get to like, okay, I'm going to follow up with my customers, and you're like, oh, it's, nap time's over or whatever it is. You have to commit to work your leads before your leaders. Your leaders are still on the list. They're important, but your leads are more important. You have to work your business, because if you're not working your business, you're not setting the example for your team, and you lose control. If your paycheck is dependent on what everybody else is doing, then it can become really emotionally scary. You can start to slip into like a scarcity mindset, because you're like, well, I don't have any control. I'm not bringing in customers. I'm not bringing ambassadors. I'm just hoping that my team will do what I want them to do. Instead, you have to commit to your own IPA, your own working your leads before your leaders. Track your activity, not necessarily your outcome. You have to do the activity and detach emotionally from whatever comes of it. So make sure that you're tracking, though, that okay, this week I followed up with 10 customers, or this, whatever. I invited 10 people this week. It doesn't matter if they said yes or no, but you invited them, and that's what you're committed to doing. And then next week, maybe you can ramp it up to 12 people, and so on and so forth as you get into your groove. And I love the idea that discipline equals freedom. So discipline can seem really like restricting. And we talk to people a ton about, time freedom or financial freedom, and all of that stuff. Some of you guys might be working from home. You might have already left your job. And working from home is kind of a double-edged sword, because you can be lured into the idea that, I can work my business whenever I want. Flexible does not mean never. So you still have to commit to a time that you are working your business, and it doesn't have to be the same time every day, but I would encourage you to set business hours and find that time, or set non-business hours. I really like what I have to do a lot with this lovely piece of technology. I set no phone zone time, because it's more tempting for me to be on my phone all day working than it is, it's sometimes you don't need to be told to work your business. You guys are passionate about Plexus and you want to help people. Sometimes it might be that you need to set your phone down and spend time with your family. And if you set time that you're going to be working your business, I promise you will be so much more productive if you give yourself an hour and a half instead of giving yourself the entire day to figure out what you're doing and to do it. So I'm doing a productivity workshop right now with Darren Hardy. He's the author or the editor of Success Magazine, or the owner. It's a really, really great workshop, but that's one of the things that he suggests, and I've started implementing, and it's amazing, are these little bubbles of time that he calls them either jam sessions or airplane time. So think about when you're on an airplane and you get like really great work done because your phone's not going off, you're not connected to Wi-Fi, except for if you got on Boingo or whatever. I never connect to Wi-Fi in the air because it's such great time. You're not distracted. No one's talking to you. You don't have to talk to the person next to you because they don't know you, and you can just get work done. So what he encourages people to do is to create that time at least once a day, or start with like 3 times a week maybe. So I've been doing these 90-minute jam sessions where I shut the door, or if I have to, I tell my husband, I'm doing a jam session. I need it to be, leave me alone. And I write out before I get started, this is what I'm doing. And I'm focusing on one thing. I'm not doing, one thing, meaning like I'm working on Plexus. So I'm going to follow up with do my leads before my leaders, this, and this. And I just hash it out. And I get more done, guys, in 90 minutes a day than I probably would normally in a week of just, doing it whenever I can in the nooks and crannies on my phone. So disciplining yourself to that time will equal freedom, because now I can set down my phone and not worry and not feel like I'm missing people or, forgetting things. So that is number one. Starts with you. Number two, empowering others. So there's a forbidden phrase. I was listening to a podcast by Craig Groeschel. He does leadership podcasts. I'm kind of in the ministry area, but I was telling you guys, I have really gotten into podcasts lately, but I love this. He was talking about a forbidden phrase in leadership. And the forbidden phrase is, my team just won't, or my potentials won't, whatever, fill in the blank. Engage on my team page. They won't come to meetings. They won't spend the money or invest in their health, whatever it is. I hear people say this kind of stuff to me all the time, and I'm guilty of saying it too. Listen for qualifiers like, well, the demographic or the people around here are just whatever. Guys, I built my business to Emerald in the Inland Empire in California. It's one of the poorest places in the nation. So when people tell me that, oh, well, people around here just don't have the money. Well, that's great. Poor people spend money on what they want to spend money on too. So when you're qualifying things like that, when you're saying my team just won't, whatever, what you're really doing is, that goes back to number one, is that you're passing off responsibility. So instead you need to take responsibility, take ownership, or if this is someone coming to you saying, well, my potentials, they just won't, everybody says it's too expensive. No, you take ownership and responsibility of it, and you just say, I haven't led them to understand the investment, or understand how important these products are, or I haven't led them to understand why coming to a meeting is so great, or I haven't led them to engage on the team page every single day. Whatever it is, you're taking responsibility for it because you haven't led them to there yet. So the forbidden phrase is, my team or my potentials just won't, whatever, because in reality, you just haven't led them that way yet. So you have to show them why what you want them to do matters. You celebrate forward progress. You celebrate when people are doing the right thing. You tell stories about when people get it right. Oh, so-and-so came tonight to the meeting and she brought, 3 guests. I just want to give her a shout out. Whatever it is, if you guys are trying to implement 3-way calls, give them, praise them in front of the group. So-and-so is doing so great. We've been doing consistent 3-way calls, and she's getting new customers and new ambassadors, whatever it is. Tell stories about whatever it is that you want your team to do, and celebrate the people that are doing it right. So here's a mindset shift for you. What is the number one, ask yourself, what is the number one excuse that I'm making about my team right now? And what's one thing I can change today to move either past that or away from that excuse? So really be honest with yourself. What is the number one excuse you're making about your team? And what's one thing you can do today, not tomorrow, but today, to move past that or away from that excuse? And then finally, my third point for tonight is let them lead. So right around now, you guys are senior Ruby, you're working toward Emerald, you're still probably really involved in a lot of, kind of the minute details, the day-to-day, so-and-so is working on this new customer and that thing and whatever it is, which is awesome. But soon you're going to start to see kind of a shift where, if you haven't already, that you're bringing up leaders. And I hope you are. I hope that you do see this shift sooner rather than later, that you're bringing up leaders that are just taking off on their own, that they're doing their own thing and they're rocking and rolling, and that's good. And I think sometimes as women, we tend to really feel like we're kind of attached to the being needed feeling, being kind of addicted to feeling necessary or needed, and like we want to help other people, which we should want to help people. But it can be toxic for us if we really hold on to that feeling of like, I just want to be needed. So I want to be involved in every little thing. And why she wants to do her own team call and she didn't even tell me that she was going to do it, or so-and-so started a team page and she didn't invite me to be on it. And, you start to get really insecure. So I love this. I think this was from Craig Groeschel as well. He said, you can have growth or you can have control, but you cannot have both. I think that is a major epiphany as a leader, that you can have growth or you can have control, but you cannot have both. Because if you're all up in the business of everything that's going on with every single person in your team, it's you just simply cannot. You can't handle it. You can't be everywhere at once. You can't be everywhere and do everything well. So as soon as you start to let go of control and know that, Amanda is going to do her own team call, and it's not going to be the way that I would do my team call, but she's doing it, and that's awesome, and I'm going to encourage her in that, because then she's going to start to grow her own leaders, and you can just be the cheerleader for her. So you need to let leaders lead. You need to grow them up, build them up as a leader and kind of let them fly the nest so that you can work your own business. That's going back to work your leads before your leaders, that you can focus on your own business activity, your own income producing activity, that you can focus on the big picture and casting vision for people, that you can let your leaders use you to inspire your teams instead of doing, being stuck in the minute, like, oh, I'm helping so-and-so sign up somebody today, not just doing a 3-way call with them and encouraging them and sharing your story, but like, I'm going to help them because they don't know how to do it themselves. That should not be the case when you guys are at Senior Ruby. Let them fly the nest, and then you're focused on creating that big picture and casting vision for people. And you can focus on improving your skills, which makes you more valuable to your team. So that kind of ties back in, because you can feel like, oh, but I don't want to let them go because I need to be needed. You're going to be needed even more when you have the time to develop your skills and get really good at what you're doing, because then they need you to teach them. So I kind of mentioned it before, but make sure that you're a student of network marketing and that you're a student of sales. That's what we're doing. And the more you grow your skills, the more valuable you are to your own potentials, because they're joining you and not Plexus, they're joining you. So you provide those skills to them, and then you're more valuable to your team. So in summary, the 3 truths that I want you guys to take hold of is that it starts with you, that you need to empower others, and that you need to let them lead. So that's what I have for you tonight, and I just kind of wanted to open it up to questions if you guys had any questions. You feel free to unmute yourselves.
In case anyone doesn't know, it's in the bottom left of your screen to unmute yourselves. I'm going to remute myself, though, because I'm sure you've seen the whole time my daughter is, like, being in that. So we're going to mute myself, but in case anyone else didn't know.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can also use the chat. But otherwise, if no one, I'll give you guys a second if you're trying to figure it out. If no one has any questions, though, I'll jump off.
No questions?
No questions?
Oh, there's a question in the chat. 14 months from Emerald to Sapphire. Yes. So I went from joining to Emerald in 10 months, and then it took me another 14 months to go from Emerald to Sapphire. And that was really because I got to Emerald. I was like pedal to the metal, and I had no margin in my life. Margin is like the white space on the sides of the page. It's like nothing. It's like, just peace and calm. I was filling up my margins with everything I could possibly do, and I was running myself ragged and not ever spending the time to rejuvenate, and I just killed myself. And it took me a long time to really find the balance in my life, and to like I said, like creating those no phone zones where I could focus, spend focus time on Plexus, and then put my phone down and step away. And I'm more productive doing that than I am running around like a chicken with my head cut off and making my husband pissed off and, ignoring my children, that sort of stuff. Do you have any favorite books? I have lots of favorite books. That's one of my favorite questions. Let's see. Maybe I can send Paris some of like the screenshot of my Audible and she can post it. My number one favorite book to start with is How to Win Friends and Influence People, period, End of story. It's an old book, but it's so applicable. I like Audible, so I like the Audible version of it, listening to it more than I like reading it. But that's my number one place to start, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Looking on my Audible, I have so many good books. Anything by Darren Hardy. I mentioned him, Darren Hardy, the editor of Success Magazine. He has a couple books, but The Compound Effect is good. The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster is really good, especially if you're like riding the highs and lows, or you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Entrepreneur Roller Coaster is so good. Oh man, so many books. Anything from Big Al Schreider, the 4 Color Personalities. Anything from Grant Cardone. He's a sales trainer. I've just recently gotten into him, and he's really good. It's not really network marketing specific, but it's sales training, and it's really good, and a lot of good mindset stuff. The 10X rule. Right now I'm reading Selling to Survive. The Miracle Morning for Network Marketers is another good one. Just so many good things. Anything by John Maxwell. What was that from personal growth that you focus on? Team growth? Oh, from Getting to Emerald, Lauren, is that what you meant? I'm looking for Lauren to see if I can get like a head nod. I'm going to unmute you so you can ask me. Hold on. Maybe not. I can't.
Okay.
There you are. Okay.
Yeah. I know. I was just wondering what it took for you to get, I mean, you had such huge growth, and I guess that happens a lot. And then there's that time of like, I don't know, where you have to like work on your personal development or team, being a good leader, or like all those different aspects come in that you weren't expecting when you grow this huge business so fast. And so just trying to see what that was like in that.
And a lot of that was going from nothing to Emerald. I was commuting 3 hours a day. And so a lot of that time was spent on personal development and listening to books. And then I retired from my job, and I went home, and then I had no structure. I had no commute. So I stopped reading my books. I stopped growing personally. Honestly, that's probably one of the biggest factors that drug that out from Emerald to Sapphire, is that I was not growing personally. I was like I said, I was so exhausted from doing so much and not taking care of myself. Then it was like, I give up. Not I give up, but I was just like, I'm so tired, and I wasn't committed to my personal development. And then that influenced how I was leading my team, because when I was reading every day and learning and growing, I was just naturally like regurgitating that to my team. I was naturally like revved up and inspired, and I would post videos on my team page and that sort of thing. And then when I stopped reading, I didn't have anything to say. So I was looking to other leaders and stuff. We have good resources, within the Jewels and stuff. I would pull things that other people were doing and post them on my team page, but it wasn't me, and it wasn't, wasn't coming from me in reality. It was just copy and pasting. I was kind of detached. And so honestly, personal growth was probably the biggest thing that made that drag out. And it really, really affected that. And then my own personal activity was the same thing. Like, going from, because it's so amazing. There's a law, what do they call it? Like, anyway, there's like literally like a law of time or whatever that's, however long you give yourself is how long it will take you to accomplish any given activity. So, when I had the time crunch of my schedule, having to get to work and only being able to work at lunch and then on the way home and that sort of thing, I was actually doing what I needed to do. I was, working my leads before my leaders and following up with people, and then coming home and having no schedule. Then it was like, oh, well, I have all day to get this done, or I have all week to get this done. And then that turns into, oh, well, I'll do it next week, and that sort of thing. So that's why everything I shared with you guys tonight is like hard lessons learned. Work on your personal development and work on your own personal leads, gaining new leads, meeting new people, following up with people. Anybody else?
You just answered my question. So.
Oh, good.
I was going to say, what was one thing you would do differently, but it was probably obviously leadership. Your personal development with leadership.
Personal development for sure. Yeah. Because it all starts with you. It really does. And I'm a huge, John Maxwell fan. I love leadership. I was, learning about leadership before Plexus ever came into the picture. And, but you can't teach other people about leadership if you're not doing it yourself. You can't, more is caught than taught, so they see you doing it. One of the things John Maxwell says is that your team will do 50% of what you do right and 100% of what you do wrong. So you have to work really, really hard to be doing the right things because whatever you're doing right, they're only going to do half of that. And everything that you're doing wrong, they're going to do all of that because they're just looking at what you're doing and emulating you. So you have to be really, really hard on yourself.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Okay. So when you went from being a full-time working mom to a full-time stay-at-home working mom, and I'm sure like as you've all seen, my children are crazy. Like right now my husband's in a totally different state for college. So on days when, your boys are just driving you nuts, because we all have this as moms, what do you do to like find time to work your business? Because you don't always get 90 minutes of like concentration.
Oh yeah, I know. When I was saying that too, I was going to kind of caveat that and be like, if you can't do 90 minutes, don't do 90 minutes. Do 20 minutes. But if it's focused 20 minutes, you can get a lot done in 20 minutes. Now I have been super blessed that, since moving here to Montana and really since leaving my job, Plexus is provided in a way that Nate's been able to be home. So I have had those single mom nights because he was also going to school. And so those nights are just like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you do it. Like single moms are the most amazing thing in the world, or, temporary single moms even. Honestly, guys, this is probably not the best like mom answer in the world. Well, you're not going to be a perfect mom always, like every day of your life. And sometimes if you need to put the kids on the iPad so that you can work, it's not the end of the world. You're providing for them. You really are, they're not going to turn out any worse, because they watched another hour of Octonauts. If you do what you got to do, and I was watching something, I don't know if you guys have ever seen, there's like this lady on Facebook, or I don't know if she has a blog or whatever, but she makes these really funny like parenting videos, and she's just like really real. Well, she posted one, I think yesterday I saw it, where she was saying that she had at one point in her life, she was a single mom. She was staying, I don't know if it was her parents' house, but she was in one room with her kids, and she was sleeping on the floor. She felt like a really crappy mom, and she ended up with some free counseling sessions, and was just telling the counselor how she felt like such a crappy mom. She would, instead of cooking these meals like she did before she was, when she was married, she's now just, cooking out of a box or whatever. And she was so depressed that she would just put her kids in front of cartoons and go and lock herself in the closet to cry, and going on and on and on. And the counselor stopped and looked at her and said, you are the most amazing mom, because you're still putting your children above all else. You're still cooking for them, and you're still worried about them, and you don't want them to see you sad. So you're going into the closet to cry and giving them fun by letting them watch cartoons. So I just think that's so applicable. Not that, we're depressed or anything, but you're not hurting your kids by putting them in front of the TV or whatever for another hour so you can work your business or whatever. And, it doesn't mean that that's your every single day, but if you have those days where they're just driving you crazy, you do what you got to do to survive. Or you lock yourself in the closet. I do that a lot.
Well, thank you so much for being on the
You're
call.
welcome.
We really appreciate it. I have like 3 pages of notes, so
Good.
it's exciting to have you do this call.
Thank you for asking me.
Well, you have a good rest of your night and stay warm.
Thank you,
I
guys.
know, I'm sure like the transition between California and Montana is just nuts.
Yeah, we're like, it's different. We're waiting for snow.
My husband's in Wisconsin right now, and we're moving there in probably right before Christmas or right after New Year's. So it'll be a big change.
Yes, definitely a big change.
Yeah. But anyways, well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Have a good
You're
night.
welcome. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.